Hello, everyone, and welcome to Relaxing with Distant Worlds 2. This is an extraordinarily relaxing game. It's also super fun and super complicated. We're going to start today. No, not there. That's where you would think we would start. But we're not starting there. We're starting here in the load screen on this. We are going to be playing Zenox. We're going to be playing a slow, tech-based start. Hopefully, we're going to be able to expand um, our territory out. Of course, this is not the game we're playing. This is just for this. We're going to expand our territory out nice and gradually at an even rate. Let the uncontrolled part of the game do its job of making us enough money while we focus on the things that matter. Exploration, so that they can see more places to put mines, and technology. Eventually, in the middle game, we'll be moving to defense, and possibly we'll eventually try to win the game, most likely by conquering our enemies, although who knows if we'll ever get to that point. This game is fun because you can really do a good job of just simulating like almost an ant farm like space empire that just grows almost on its own, and you just have to sort of manage it slightly by snipping those little branches that try to escape, like on a bonsai tree. This is our pre-start episode because in this episode we're going to talk mostly about theoretical things, um, talk about our preferred starting queue. It's a very strange, somewhat aggressive starting queue, but it nonetheless matters. So we want to use our race's abilities to their best effect. For the Zenox, the things we probably get is the ability to be a technocracy, which means fast science and a hindrance of mining. We get really good espionage. We get this set of beam weapons. So when you compare these beam weapons to the things around them, you'll notice that usually speaking, the DPS on the weapon that you're training for the first two is a little bit better than the next rank up. For example, if you look at the mediums, which is the strongest weapon in the group all the time, our medium weapon that we've got here is doing 5.49 DPS. It has the highest point blank accuracy and highest mid-range accuracy of almost any weapon on the list. Like, it's very high. I can't say for certainty there's not a few things that are higher, but I can say for certainty that it's as high as any comparable. It's higher than any comparable thing I've looked at. It has no shield or armor penetration, which is a big downfall, and it's very short range. But it's not as short range as some of the other weapons that are short range, like it's superior range to railguns, but not quite by a third. So the reason we want to use these weapons is because we want them to be close range weapons, and we do not want them to be our primary weapon type. Mostly, we don't want to be putting them into large weapon slots because they're not good at that. One of the advantages of this line of weapons is that you're getting the large slot weapon. You're getting it with the same tech without having to research something else. If you notice, past this point, you stop getting fighter weapons. But here, you're still getting large weapons. But if you see, this weapon's large is 7.13 DPS, and this weapon's medium is 7.95 DPS. The medium is a superior weapon. It's just that the large does nearly as much DPS at a greatly increased range. It's a good substitute for a long-range weapon on any ship before you've researched something else, but it is not preferred as your long-range. It would be better to get something else in a different category for your long-range weapon. If you look here, you'll see our long-range weapon here, doing 7.13, is actually superior again to the next tech up regular long-ranged beam. It's also longer. No, it's not, because these are all standoff weapons, and these are all enclosed weapons, except for the beam, which is a standoff weapon. These weapons do have longer range, and that is their primary advantage over ours. Our weapons want you to get in close, and the regular weapons do slightly less damage, but they shoot further away, and their range is not as good across the entire category. At this point, they're also getting armor bypass, which we don't get any of, which is a disadvantage. And then when you look at the last one, these weapons are comparable to the combination of this and this as techs. The lances are superior. They're definitely superior. Our large weapon here is doing more damage, slightly, but the phase weapons have armor and shield bypass, which well make up for the damage. We are still more accurate, though, which is a big deal. And then right above us, we have the weapons that we have our medium, small weapons and our fighter weapons to match, which we are also slightly better than. So up until this point, these weapons are doing better than the weapons that you have to tech to get to there, and you're saving research points. You're not saving a lot of research points to get slightly inferior weapons. Well, at this point, statistically equal, because we're getting the armor and shield bypass at this point. You're getting slightly inferior weapons. No, I don't know. I'd have to do the math top to bottom to know whether or not they're equivalent. I think they're equivalent or slightly better. These weapons are. But you're paying a lot less. This costs 96,000. Each one of these costs 6,400. So you're looking at 13,000 to get basically the equivalent of this 9.6. And if you add all of these up in sequence, you'll find that at most times you are, like, if you add this and this and this, you will have spent more research to get to the equivalent spot, which is this, that this is equal to there. So these multi-beam weapons are equal to the long-range beams. Actually slightly superior, but you've spent much less tech than these three techs. And then when you get to here, these are equal to this, and if you compare them, you can see just this tech alone is almost the amount of research you spent to get here. So you are saving research, and you are saving money by going down this line. If you take the regular line, you will eventually get superior weapons, and then finally much superior weapons. But that shouldn't be our intent. Our intent should be that this is our medium and small weapon slot weapons. We want to find large weapons someplace else. And I think the best place to find large weapons, because you get a victory condition for Zenox, which is building planetary missiles, is to go down here. Now that's torpedoes. And go. They even suggest it by giving you missiles at the start. So you go down here and you do heavy missiles. And then eventually, if you want to go all the way to the end, if the game is causing you enough problems that it's required, you can end up here in self-repairing swarms by combining those two together. Or you can just go here, here, and here, and then go up here and maybe try to get the extreme energy warheads, which are pretty cool. So it's a two-weapon strat. We're going to use our star beams as our small and medium weapons, and that is going to make us logically want to go up into the beam point defense, accurate point defense, these. And then we're going to do missiles, and then we'll use that's railguns, the planetary missile bases if we decide to do that, put defenses on planets, Depends on whether or not we get that far into the game. And so that's our weapons. That's great. The shields is an even better situation. By the time we get to here, I mean, if you math it out, a weapon has to basically do 25% of your total shield amount for your extra regen, not to end up having you take extra hits on your shield than the self-reinforcing shields. The self-reinforcing shields are only getting 120 extra points, but they are losing 2 points of gain per second. Like, that's an immense amount, right? That's like, yeah. After a minute, 60 seconds, you have gained back more regen over them than they have shield base, than they have base shield for you. Now, I mean, obviously, most fights aren't going to take, well, no, fights can take 2 minutes in this game. They can easily take 2 minutes. As long as you're in the sweet spot, your shields will be better than theirs, and if you're not in the sweet spot, your shields will be equivalent, which is great. This is a lot of saving. Like, if you look at this, the complexity that they have to go through, if they want to end up with the best shields, which are just basically equivalent to yours, they have to learn almost every shield tech, right? Like, everything. Everything. So that's our shields. Our shields are fast regen shields with decent amounts. They are, in the end, as good as the best shields that you can get. They are comparable to previous shield types. I mean, there are arguments that there are situations in which other shields might be better, right? So if we look here, we see we have 648, and if we compare that to the multi-phase shields, which are faster, they have very slightly more shield than us. Like literally, it's 50. They have 50 points more shields than us, less than 50. It's like 42, 48. But they have way less, 2 whole points of regen less than us. And then if you compare that to the other shields, they have a lot more extra shields on us. But the regen is still much less. The heavy shields are very good, but their regen is very terrible. And if you look at the advanced shields are probably the best shield in this column. Like, they're definitely almost 100 points better than ours. They're just over 100 points better than ours. They're actually the same amount of points better than ours than the final shield is. But we've got to this place, right? We've got to this place better. In order to even take this shield, you have to have filled in 2 of whole shield tech lines, and then you get one place where your shields are probably mathematically superior to the Zenox shields, which leads to another tech you have to research, which makes your shields probably definitely mathematically superior, and then your final shield is equal to our final shield, but we probably have had our final shields before you even researched these 2 technologies, right? Like, you're talking about, we spent 1,000, 4,000, 12,000, and then we have our 64. I mean, this should happen naturally, right? Like, just getting all of these things up should happen naturally. You should want to do that anyway. Like, you might argue that because you have to go up here and do all of this, that's the equivalent of this, but it isn't, because what is this theoretical regular shield path doing to get enough power on its ships? It's obviously getting these, right? So we get to here, and then while they're still teching in here to get their shields better, we're here, and then we're finishing engines, which are something they need anyway. it basically ends up being a very good payoff. Like the amount of research you save is immense. And if they decide to not go to the final shield types, then they have even more trouble because then you're going to get here just naturally through maxing out your engines, which is not a bad idea. And then they aren't going to even get this far. They're going to be stuck back to the point where you were superior to them at technology go, like back in here. So that's the shields. Very fast shield regen, slightly less shield strength. What else do we get? We get crystal sensors. Crystal sensors are just basically a replacement for enhanced sensors. They are effectively the exact same piece of gear, except the crystal sensors are just straight better. They just have a better scan power. So you're basically getting your crystal sensors. The sensors you're getting for the price of improved sensors. Well, I mean, 28 points higher, or I think 38 points higher, are the equivalent of this tech, which you never have to get because advanced scanners is, yeah. You get this instead of this and never have to get this, and then you go up here the natural way through your own tech. That's how that works. That's fine. Crystal sensors, very good. The last thing is this, which is just a fun building. It's not even a thing worth worrying about. So let's talk about how I want to start the game and how I will probably end up starting the game. Okay, so how I want to start the game will be early warp field generators, followed by exploration scanners, followed by stable warp field generators, followed by, I think it's here, research labs, followed by planetary exploration, followed by structured research, and then down here. This is my desired start. Will I get there? Absolutely not. It's impossible. But even if I just get to here before anything interferes with me, I have a good tech start and the basis of a strong economy, because the basis of a strong economy in this game is finding resources that make your civilian economy desire to build more ships, building more stations, which makes your civilian economy desire to build more ships, sending those ships out so that they can get regular income by bringing things into the colonies, which then translates into colony money, which then translates into tax money. This gives a very strong start if you can get through here. The only thing that's going to hinder it is that it's possible to have starting situations in which you can't, like, this won't work because you are being pushed too far behind. Almost no research bases. I've had a start like that where the reason I couldn't get through this was because there was almost no research bases. I had a start where the planets were all too far apart, and so I couldn't get my explorers out fast enough to build my economy, which also caused me to too oftentimes not be able to keep my research at cap. All of those things can cause problems. Most likely after this, instead of going down and doing the unrealistic part, which is this, and this, eventually I'm not going to be able to pick these because I'm going to run out of money. Those are free now, though, because even though I'm using this like it's just a fun selection screen, it's actually just a game I made with all the text revealed as a save so that I could play around in here. At this point, most likely the game is just going to be like, no, we're fed up, and we're going to have to. You're not going to be able to just relax, sit back on your laurels anymore. You're going to have to do some stuff. Usually, most problems that will occur around this point in the game, so the what I call the end of the early game, like the end of the very beginning. So instead of just having an early game, we have the start phase. This is the end of the start phase. Usually when we get around this point, the game is going to have introduced a problem to us that is basically going to be, you can do no more if you don't do this. The most oftentimes, the solution to that problem is this. That a lot of problems can be solved with this plus this. Sometimes, depending on what you have in your system already existing, you want to get this and then this, which naturally leads into colonization. And I'm just going to say this outright. I never invest in offensive ship technology until I have the ability to colonize planets. If I have not researched the ability to colonize planets, I am never going to be getting weapons. I don't know if this will change, but as things are balanced now, pirates are better solved with your economy at the beginning of the game. And there is no enemy around you that you can't hold off, at least for the first 100 years, by pouring money into their coffers to keep them neutral. Will that last forever? No. Will it last long enough for you to get your first colonies out and then start researching your first weapon technology so you can start pushing ahead on weapons? In my experience, the answer to that is yes. So that is how we are going to play. It is going to be expansion. It's going to be exploration, economy expansion, research. Research, hard research, if we can. If we haven't had enough research planets, then we switch from hard research to expanding our exploration, which we then transition to colonies, because colonies can also help fix research, because colonies can have star bases, and you can create star bases that have basically nothing except research stations on them and put them above all of your colonies as a replacement for a complete lack of research bases on which to put labs. Yes. Additionally, colonies provide population, which is the best, most reliable source of research anyway. That's the plan. It should work. I played about 6 starts with the Zenox since the game has come out. This plan has succeeded on 4 out of 6 times. The 2 times it didn't succeed, transitioning into exploration saved the games. So that's it. That's what we're going to do. So let's go to the main menu. I'm not going to go any further into this today. I'm going to show you my settings, but we're not going to start because I want this to be an introduction. I want this sort of technical introduction to sit alone as its own episode because I don't want anyone who doesn't want to listen to me talking about technology for an hour to have to. I know I've only mentioned that at the end of this, that's what this is, but hopefully if I title it and describe it properly, people will understand that this is the technical episode, and if you don't care about that, you don't have to watch it. And so this is my setup. We have elliptical, 1,000 stars, normal nebula density, 8x8 sectors, which means the planets will be far apart, but hopefully not insanely far apart. This has bit me in the butt before, but I do like the distance, and when it works out, the distance is worth more than the times where the distance is going to make a mess of things for you. Okay, so that's that. All of this stuff is normal, except the difficulty is moved up to hard. We want those to be invisible because we want the chaos. We don't want our plans to turn out perfectly. Some of the text that we will try to beeline will not be where we expect them to, and that's a good thing. This is all normal. Oh, except for we're on hard. Pirates, we move down to few. Don't have to do that. Good economy means you can probably handle lots of pirates, especially in the early game. You're going to have no choice but to uh, make a deal with them, and if you make a deal with them early enough, you'll turn them into non-aggression pacts, and you won't be paying anymore. And you will turn them into non-aggression pacts way before you're strong enough. And I mean, unless you beeline um, ship technology, like unless you beeline military, which is something I would do with a race that isn't Zenox. Um, but it doesn't matter. In fact, just to prove it doesn't matter, we can put it back on normal. No, I hate them. I'm putting them on few. It's not because I don't think I can do it. It's because I just don't like them. They're annoying. They send you a lot. Once you've made them friends, they send you a lot of unnecessary, here's some systems I want to sell you things. But part of the interest of the game for me is discovering stuff myself, so I don't want to buy systems. I want my ships to go there. I know it's weird, but just a thing. Normal pirate strength. Pirate proximity is average. Um, yeah, they stay dead. Normal space creatures. This stuff is all normal. Our race, Zenox, kitties. This is interesting. Not this. This is interesting. Like, very interesting. Um, we are very bad on nearly every kind of planet, to the point where, like, all these other kinds of planets, they're not even going to show, like, they're not even gonna show up on the list, even if they're relatively high quality. There's just no point. The only things that are good for us are these, and this means that the relatively low quality of ice planets are still okay for us. Yeah. Espionage, we will be using this to make up for some of those lower techs we don't get. If we meet someone right away, that will make our situation relatively great, because we will be able to beeline the techs we want, because the low-level technologies that are fundamental techs, like colonization and stuff, will probably be stolen from other people. Now, that won't work if we don't find anybody, but it will definitely work if we do. Our ground troops suck. We want to avoid not using them. In fact, we don't really want to have wars if we can help it. We want to be strong enough to win wars, but we don't want to be conquering people. It's just not what we do. If we need territory, we might just do colonization pushes to push our borders over things. I know you can't do that to take colonies, but I don't care. Generally speaking, because our colonization types are so specific, there's not going to be very many circumstances where we're going to be looking at an awesome colonized world for another race and think, we wish we had that. We're going to be thinking about developing the existing snow worlds inside of our area so that we can actually live on them. Well, we're not going to name it. We always change down to pink triangle because it's not. I know it's not pink. I know it's not pink. It's purple. It's lighter purple, but I call it pink triangle because it just. I don't know. I just do. I can't be explained. Population growth does suck. Colony happiness does suck. Mining rate does suck. 20% all research is awesome. Counter espionage already fits with the things we're doing, and the lack of corruption is good too. So looking at here, we want to be preferably in the far regions. It's a higher chance that sparse stars give us a bad start, but a lower chance that we are completely surrounded by enemies that can destroy us before we get anywhere. This is all good. Leave that at 12. We don't want to fill the galaxy too much. We want some space to grow. Smaller planets, larger numbers of people would make this a little bit of a harder start. But honestly, I was playing on the default settings at first anyway, and this doesn't really give you that much of an advantage. The first 3 games I played were on default settings using a strategy very similar to this, and they all turned out fine. All right, I'm just going to stop right here on the screen, I hope that everything I have said wasn't too boring, and I hope I haven't said anything in this episode that's so important that it's not skippable, because that would also go against my intent. There you have it. That's my Zenox strategy. That's my perspective on what they can do and what's happening with them at the beginning of the game. And so I'm gonna break here. Thank you for watching. Anyone who did, let's hopefully we can have a good, nice, long, relaxing Distant Worlds 2 experience. I really like this game. Eventually I intend to make this game and Stellaris regular featuring games on this channel, because I love them, both of them. They don't compete for me, they just do different things. And yeah, I'll see you at the actual start.